So next, I want to start with a little exercise and have everybody raise your hand if you've ever gotten an email politely informing you that your sensitive personal data has been leaked through a data breach because of some centralized server. I know mine is all over the dark web. So anyone else? Yes? Oh, yes.
I'm amazed
Sadly.
it's not all the hands. But still, there's a lot of hands, which makes this next panel extra perfect. We have hole-punching, how peer-to-peer communication systems will reshape the internet.
Here to tell us why cloud is not your friend, please welcome Paolo Ardoino, CTO at Tether and Bitfinex and the CSO at Holepunch, and Mathias Buus, CEO at Holepunch. Give them a warm welcome.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to our talk. I know we talked a lot today about financial stuff and about monetary systems. We want to take a little bit of your time to talk about something very, very close to us, which is the peer-to-peer internet, where we think the internet is going, where it should be going, how we're going to tackle a lot of the problems we're facing as society and as technologists, and how we can enable more people to participate both in the modern economy but also in modern technology. So before we dive into all the good stuff, let's talk about a little bit about where we are right now. So basically, the current internet, the thing we all access when we open our phones, when we open our browsers, it's basically rigged. It's not made for us here. It's something that's basically very exploitative and has a ton of issues. And it's something we want to talk a little bit about. So think about this thing. So how many here has smartphones, right? It's probably everybody, right? Maybe you have more than one smartphone. Maybe you have a smart watch also. At home or with you, it is a tech conference after all. You probably have a laptop also, right? All of these devices have immense computing power, more computing power than we ever had in civilization. And it's all ours. We all paid for them. It's not devices we're renting. It's devices we bought and paid for. We all have data plans. We all have internet at home. We paid for it. Most of it doesn't have caps. Depends on where you are in the world. But we have all these resources. And we're just getting more and more of them. I recently got a TV at home. I think that has a computer in also. It's actually really hard to buy things today without computers in them. And also, like, the amount of storage attached to all these things is pretty immense. Like, I don't even think you can buy a phone these days with less than like 32 or 64 gigabytes of data. If you think about how much that is, it's really intense. If you multiply that by 7 billion people or 8 billion people on the planet, right? So it's like we've never had more computing power in the world. Yet we also never been more centralized than we are today. We have all this computing power, yet we're forced to rent even more computing power on servers in the cloud, right? It's completely absurd because that's the way things are structured. And there's a lot of reasons about this, and we're going to talk a lot about it today. But like, even simple things like actually running services on your devices is really impossible because the entire thing is working against you. You can't just run things on your devices because it's really hard with networks. It's really hard to set up. You need to basically have a PhD in computer science if you want to get that working, if you want to run actual services on your own devices. That's why everything is kind of trying to push you into these massive data centers that's just trying to centralize everything and making you very, very dependent on it. So that's first of all like really scary and also like just really inefficient, right? It's kind of like just absurd and very, very counterintuitive. So think about this example. If I take out my phone and I send Paolo a message right now, like me and Paolo are standing like a meter away from each other, but that message to travel this distance leaves my phone, goes to a data center, maybe it gets routed to another data center. I don't even know. Gets routed to another thing. It probably gets stored somewhere, gets routed back, and then at some point we'll route to Paolo, even though we're in like yelling distance of each other here, or talking distance of each other. It's crazy, crazy, absurd to think that this is a thing that should happen, right? It's like, how do we get to this point in today's society? It should not be this way. And there's, the examples go on and on about this. It's like, if you have smart devices at home, I know a lot of us have. I have smart devices from IKEA, which I bought. If my internet goes off, my outside internet, they stop working, because they also want to leave the premise to communicate with each other, right? Even though I'm right next to them, and I can use the switch to turn it on and off, but like all the technology, all the coolness kind of disappears, because everything is designed in this way, because, like I said, everything is rigged against us technology-wise, because that's how the internet is currently structured. So why is this, Paolo?
So I'm going to be the guy that will do a little bit of rant on why this is
A
happening.
lot of ranting.
So internet is not made for peers. It's made for corporations and VCs, right? So when internet was created, it was made by peers. It was made by people with profound ethos. They wanted to share knowledge. They wanted to make knowledge accessible by many, by everyone, actually, right? So everyone was hosting on their home computer their website. The website was providing information on what they were studying, researching, or just personal life, right? Career, whatever. But internet was made not to be centralized, right? So with centralization comes a bigger problem in terms of resiliency and many other things that we will talk about. But the reason why this is happening is that we are living in a world where big corporations are actually obsessed by your data, right? They are craving for your data. They want to collect on fresh data continuously, because that's the way they make money, right? So their cost of running these enormous data centers around the world is growing, and it's growing because the data will never be forgotten, right? So imagine this massive amount of data, and every day, or every year doubles, because more people connected to internet means that using these data centers means that more and more data to be stored. So they have always to find new ways to squeeze every single last drop of value from the data you are providing, right? So you are saving your photos on your cell phone, and of course it's super nice, but because you don't want to lose them, and so they will be backed up on the cloud. But I'm sorry to break that to you. Sure, many will know this already, but the cloud is not your friend, right? Cloud are scams, if you think about it, because they are a way to lure you in and never let you go out. Because once you are in, they possess all your personal digital life, and it's extremely hard to get out of it, right? To download everything, and it's sparse across many data centers, and even more so in many different jurisdictions. And that's one of the things that I'm a little bit more scared about, because this also provides a huge issue in terms of privacy, right? So you have, unfortunately, we are living in a complex geopolitical area where we are seeing wars, we are seeing also a lot of tension. And for example, I'm Italian, right? And my family lives in Italy, and all this content that they produce daily is stored on data centers that might be well outside of Italy, right? And so what do you think will happen in a catastrophic scenario when this data could be accessed by another country that might not be really happy maybe on what Italy is doing, right? So data can be weaponized at multiple levels, and also at country level, right? So data gives all the information about ourselves, about our cities, and so on. So that's the biggest problem that we are facing today, right? So privacy, but privacy is to me, is a right that always is forgotten by many because, of course, it's easier to use smartphone, it's easier to use these applications that do everything for us, but at which cost, right? The cost is basically our entire digital life.
So, and one thing I just want to point here also is like, think about it this way. We're in this situation right now, but we're in a very fluid world, right, that is just consuming more and more and more data. Like, I don't know the exact stats, but I wouldn't be surprised if we double the amount of data every year. If that's not, if we're even quadrupling it, we're adding more and more devices every day. We're telling things more and more about our things. We're telling more and more things about our life. Things like robot vacuums are going around your house, getting acquired by big cloud companies. Like, why do you think that is? Just because they want more data. They want to suck more in so they can build more of their business model. They're not working for you, even though you bought them. They're working for someone else, right? And things are only moving in this direction. So all the cool things, all the tech we can think about, like robots, like self-driving cars, all these things that are basically just going to consume more and more data, they're going to be good for us. But if we continue on our current trajectory, they're also going to be incredibly scary because their interest and the people who make them interest are not necessarily aligned with ours because they just want to squeeze more and more out of us. So I personally think that's super scary and a direct result of the world we're in.
Yeah, it's today. Well, of course, is about a lot about Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is financial freedom, is a monetary instrument. But we have to think that in, let's say, our nice, outside of what we are doing, there are three important other industries that are growing crazy fast. That is, the robotics, of course, artificial intelligence, and Internet of Things. In a way, what Mathias was saying about connected light bulbs. So light bulbs can even buy their own, small share of electricity nowadays. Fridges are ordering milk if you forgot to buy milk. Cars, self-driving cars, and especially robots, right? In 10, 20 years, we'll have robots as part of our life, right? So you might have seen the Tesla robot, or even more impressive, the Boston Dynamics. So robots, you put artificial intelligence on top of that, what do you think will happen, right? Our lives will be full of robots running around and doing things for us or with us, or ruling us, who knows? But so all this will require an enormous amount of information to go around, right? That could be volatile information we want to store. And thinking that all these interactions will always happen through centralized data centers is crazy, right? So.
Yeah, it's like my mind just rolls because I'm thinking, when I think about all the things in my life, today if you go out and buy a car, I recently bought a car, you pay it, right? And you pay it once, but you still don't owe it because they still want to get you hooked on the data plans because they want to milk more data from you because that's the way things are structured. So you got to pay continuous fees for mapping these days and all these data plans because they just want to squeeze more data out of you because the interests here are not aligned because you don't really own your data. So it's super scary.
Yeah, and so again, why this is happening? So if this is not scalable, won't work in the future, and all these problems, right? What drives these corporations to design their tools, their applications in this way? Well, the reason is that, if you are an investor in a company, you want to make sure that that company will keep making money, right? So having full control over people's data is the only way to guarantee that companies will, and these big tech corporations, will keep making money and accruing value over time. But of course, this is really bad for resilience. We have seen WhatsApp, what happened a few days ago. Entire countries could not talk to each other for a couple of hours, I think, even more so. So this is not sustainable. Is really we are reaching a peak in the usage of in the centralization of data centers. And fortunately, I think that what actually Bitcoin teaches us is that there is a better way, right? There is a way where things that we thought couldn't be, decentralized, in fact, with a little bit of work and with giving up the control, because I think that is the key. If you give up the control on technology, technology can do much bigger things than what you think or what we are used to.
Yeah, it's like, this is like, it's a perfectly fine world, right? This is the world we live in. And if you talk to people on also like, there's a reason they're building these big data centers. It's not because they're, necessarily evil. It's because that's actually the only way to enforce this control, to have all the data local, to pull off these kind of algorithms. So the point is more like we only need these if we have this massive centralization. So, but anyways, I hope you're all good and depressed. I know I've been depressed about this world for many years, and it's super sad, right? Like, why is it this way? So, let's move on to something a little bit more heartwarming, a little bit more light. So basically, we made this app. It's Keynote. It's a scalable peer-to-peer chat app. It's basically all the things Paolo just mentioned about how a chat app should be. A worldwide chat app. Anybody, anywhere in the world can use it. They can install it on their computer, right? It's fully private, meaning like nobody is reading your data. It's just your data and the people you're talking to. It never goes down. Like, it's not like, oh, there's like a data center down and it's gone. It's like, it never goes down. It doesn't have weird limits about, oh, you can only share 20 megabyte files or a gigabyte file, even a terabyte file. The only limits that are in there is basically what your computer can handle. If you have storage or if your friends have storage, it's fine. Like, we don't care. It's like unlimited. Like, we just want you to live up to your full potential. It has Bitcoin built in. You can send payments between each other. Also, all just between your peers. Nobody else needs to know. And first and best of all, it's completely free. It costs nothing, and it's free forever. And we can be up on stage here and saying it's free forever because we mean it. It's not free for the next 3 months. It's always free, and it's always going to be free. So it sounds very much too good to be true, right, Paul?
Yep.
It's like it sounds like a scam, honestly. So how can this be? How can we deliver and build and promise all these things? So basically, there's just one secret. It's 100% peer-to-peer. So if you're not familiar with the term peer-to-peer, it just means that it's just people connecting directly to people. 100%, no compromises. And that's all what we're about, 0 compromises. So we can do all these things and we deliver all these promises and we can make it all free because it, first of all, doesn't cost us anything. It just costs some development cost, but that's like a one-time thing. It doesn't cost us anything. If you go into Keynote and you're like, haha, let me scam these guys and like just send tons of data to people to like drive up the data bill, please do, because it literally doesn't cost us anything. Because it's just going from your computer to somebody else's computer or to the people in your chat room. If you want to have a chat, I don't know if anybody in here uses Slack, probably you do, but like, as soon as I open a new Slack channel, it's already saying like, hey, you gotta pay money because you can only see the last 1,000 messages. Why is that? It's just like an arbitrary limit. In Keynote, there is no limits because you have storage on your computer. You have tons of storage on your computer. If you think about your computer in terms of like the capabilities and I think about a data center which has tons of compute. Your slice of the compute you get in a data center is like minuscule compared to the amount of compute you have on your computer, which is why we can deliver a much, much stronger experience just by doing peer-to-peer, because you actually have way more computing power. So when you go on Zoom or centralized chat applications, they'll probably lower your frame rate. You probably don't even notice it. I didn't notice it and still started doing peer-to-peer. Like, you'll probably run at 30 frames per second. And you'll be like, this is normal, this is fine. And I remember the first time I started like using Keynote when we deployed it and used it for real and like started experiencing the world in like 60 frames per second. I was like, whoa, this is like completely different. Why is not everybody not doing it? And then I was looking at how much data I was sending, and I did the math, and I was like, oh, because it's just way, way more expensive if we have to pay for it centralized. But you know what? I'm already paying for it because I have an internet connection at home, and I'm paying a monthly fee for it. I just don't have to pay twice. So it's really nice, right? And it's like, it's an incredible experience to feel like using something, just knowing nobody is making money on it, like, in the world of cloud, it always feels like everybody else besides me is making money. So it's super scary.
Yeah, I think that this is a perfect example of relinquishing control, right? So all this can happen only because the way Kit is designed is just to be open source software, open source technologies, data structures that are available to everyone, and basically everyone can take it and run with it. So to me, that's exactly the real power of what we are building here, right? So when you think about Zoom, Telegram, all these applications, so you have to think about that these companies have thousands of people, right? Hundreds or thousands of developers. So how many developers do you think it took to create Kit? So it took just one front-end developer working for 6 months, only working from his laptop. So as Mathias was saying, Kit has peer-to-peer functionality embedded, but most importantly is a peer-to-peer video chat, right? So it means that have high-quality video, have, of course, audio, messaging, all the functionalities that are used to. File sharing, right?
Yeah.
So a few days ago, I was sending with one of my friends 10 gigabyte to him, right? Was actually this presentation. And usually, if you think about it, if you try to send to one of your friends on Telegram or WhatsApp or Zoom a big file, more than 100 megabytes, they will limit you because, again, it costs, right? So they don't want to give you so much. But really, your bandwidth is extremely capable to deliver that amount of data, right? So it took like 40, 50 minutes to download 10 gigabyte from the home broadband of my friend. So to me, that is pure freedom. But again, imagine how powerful this can be. So this is all built through web technology. So HTML, CSS, JavaScript, all, the majority of the developers in this world are front-end developers, right? So they build websites, they build web applications. So what do you think will happen when suddenly all these developers will be able to build applications that they were only dreaming about before? So, if you were willing to build your Zoom competitor, it's not just about creating a nice user experience, a nice application. You have also to be entrepreneurial. So you have to talk to VCs and hire and raise tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars, because you will know that if you are successful, it means that you will need to have centralized data centers. But suddenly, all this possible without having single servers, right? So this technology allows to build the same user experiences for everything that all the common applications are used to without every single server. That's the beauty of it. So now we are creating with this technology an even playing field for everyone that wants to create and just create and focus on the quality of their product working from home. You can build really anything. We'll see a little bit of example later. But how this is possible, Mathias?
So basically, we set out to build Keynote, or our front-end developers set out, and we were all obviously planning it. And we had two goals. The primary goal was obviously we want to make an amazing, competitive, super good chat application that has all the features Paolo just mentioned. And by the way, what I love about Keynote, especially being in Europe, is like when I call my friends in Denmark, where I'm from, I'm just doing local connections in Denmark, and it's a pretty small country. And I can feel like, the latency being low because I'm not having all my data leave the country. So it's like, it just feels better. So it's great. Anyways, we had two goals. We wanted to build this amazing application, right? But more than that, we wanted to make sure that when we built this application, we could unlock everybody else, every developer in this room, any developer in the world, to have the same kind of experience. And like Paolo said, without having a PhD in computer science or peer-to-peer technology, just by having basic understanding of web technology, like being able to make normal applications. I know when I went to school, it was one of the first courses we had was like, this is how you can make buttons and stuff like that. This basic understanding, but like doing those kind of things while still unlocking people to make the same kind of powerful applications that you're used to from online. And like Paolo said, like for us, it's all about delivering that experience to everybody and allowing every developer to have the same experience our developer has making Keynote in a way where it doesn't matter if you're here or if you're in Bangladesh or in China or the US or on the moon for that matter. Like all you just need to have is a laptop so you can develop it. No operations cost when you deploy it because users help scale because it's peer-to-peer and that's how the ways are designed. So what's the secret sauce here? How do we do this? Well, we basically do this by just building infrastructure. So at Holepunch, we just set out to solve the basic problems, the boring problems really, about any application. Like things like how do we actually do this thing where if I call Paolo, we're just connecting to each other, and how do we make that work in a world that's actually really hostile to that because everything kind of wants to be routed to clouds. So to make sure that the connectivity layer working, to make sure that the connectivity layer is 100% always, you can't even turn it off, end-to-end encrypted, right? Because like nothing in this world should be unencrypted. Making sure that it's guaranteed to be private. Nobody is in between. Nobody can listen to your data except for the people you're trying to connect to. Making sure we have basic data structures in there that allows you to transfer all the data you want to the people you want in efficient ways. So like if I want to share a terabyte file with Paolo and some of my other friends, that we can do that in a way where everybody's helping deliver that so I don't have to put on all the strain on my computer. But like in a way where I don't even know, like fully transparent peer-to-peer experiences, actually pretty similar to what we're used to from Bitcoin technology also, like these kind of ideas of everybody helping each other a little bit. Having things like databases in there so you can actually run queries because that's super important to applications, and making sure that all these things run really fast and runs fast whether or not I have a huge amount of data in there and a little amount of data, but like that's very, very close to our heart. So like we actually all we think about is you guys. Like how can we make this really easy for you guys? And that's like our mantra every time we build something. Making sure we build it so we can deploy it in Keynote, but also more than anything that anybody else can build on this and make really, really, really powerful things, because that's our mission. That's what we're all about. And by the way, like we're doing all this for free, right? We're not charging anything for it because we don't have to. It's peer-to-peer. Like it doesn't cost us anything. We just, you connect to each other. You use a little bit of infrastructure to connect to each other. It's basically runs on potatoes. It doesn't use a blockchain. Not that there's anything wrong with blockchain, but like things like this, it's just people connecting to each other. There's no need for mining or anything because it's just data flowing through us. You still need the same kind of guarantees as you're used to from blockchain, like auditability, making sure that things came from each other, authenticity, encryption, and all that stuff we solve, right? It doesn't require you to put in a token. Like all of this is free. There's no like forced token in there. We have tons of payment systems in there because payments are super essential for any kind of commercial app, right? So we have primitives in there for doing Bitcoin transfers, so like I mentioned before, in a way where every application can enhance this, because like commercial applications are super important for the internet, obviously. We want tons of stuff like that. But like nothing should be forced payable because this is just infrastructure. And again, it doesn't cost us anything, and we're not in it to make like, forcing everybody to pay for it. We just want to make sure that you guys can make the apps. And most important of all, like there's no servers. Like nothing is going out, nothing is leaving your computer unless you want it to. It's just between you and your peers. You can obviously set up all the peers you want, but you're in control, and that's super important for us. And that's like a big part of our mission statement.
If I can probably ask to the public, how many of you know BitTorrent or ever use BitTorrent?
Yeah.
A good amount of it, right? So I think that really, if in a really simplified way, if you think about Holepunch, it can be seen as BitTorrent, but for live data streams. If you remember using BitTorrent, or if you're still using today, right? It's for static files. You want to share a file with someone, and you use BitTorrent, right? BitTorrent, by the way, has been the only file sharing system that has been working until today with no ability to be censored. So the idea was basically we take that technology, we put it on steroids in the sense that, of course, it took 5 years to arrive to the point where we are today with Keynote, right? So it didn't happen overnight. It's a lot of time. Mathias, myself, the team are working on this technology. But if you think about it, you take BitTorrent, you want to apply to something else than static files, so live data streams. So everything in an internet is a live data streams, right? When you browse, but also when you watch a video, or when you download files, when you just communicate with others, everything is in motion. And so the big innovation of Holepunch is basically taking the technology, improving it, and making it available to developers, not just to share files, but actually to connect everything, all our devices, all the applications that we build, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, totally. Like, take all this, make it modular, make it easy to consume, not tied to one use case, but like make it available to every use case, which is super essential for us. So yeah. So basically, what's your job? Because I love to talk about this when I interview people to work at Holepunch, because I'm always telling you, just so you know, we work on all the boring stuff because we want other people to work on all the exciting stuff. And what I mean by that is, like, we take on all these hard decentralized problems, so you guys can just focus on making really, really great apps. So we try to solve the infrastructure stuff. So you can just bring all your ideas in here to make all kinds of amazing and beautiful applications, right? So that's really, really, really important to us, and I think that's like a really big core of our mission statement.
So what's in for us, right? That is the classic question that we get
all the time.
So, of course, you can imagine some evil plan on why companies should put together their efforts and build this technology. Again, we said that the purpose of Holepunch and Keynote is relinquishing control, right? Once it's out there, everyone can take it, fork it, run with it, and if anything happens to the companies, for example, we get bored, we do something else, it will keep running. Because again, there is no need of data centers. There are no central servers. So really, why we are doing this, right? I think this sentence is not mine, but I think is quite emblematic of what we are here to tell you. So you can read this in multiple ways, right? For us, this is not about the money. It's about sending a message. So we have been here talking a lot about Bitcoin. Bitcoin is money, is the perfect money, right? But if you think about, or it's dear to you, the concept of the individual sovereignty means that a person should be able to be free. It means that you need to be financially free and also have freedom of speech. So you cannot have one without the other, right? If you have only half of it, you are not actually free, right? So while Bitcoin is focusing on financial freedom, we felt the urge of solving and working to solve the problem of communication freedom. So the first part of the sentence is about the money. The second is about communication, sending messages. But also, I think is the other way to read it is that, we are a group of companies, right, that, we have been lucky. We have worked really hard as well, and we are in this industry, in the Bitcoin industry, since a while. We unified the talent, the vision, the capital to create this new platform for everyone. And when we say it's not about the money, it's because we don't feel the urge to squeeze every single last drop of value out of everyone that is building on the internet, right? But also, it's about sending a message, because it's sending a message to all the big corporations that keep doing that, okay? That keep accruing value through the user information. They're obsessed by the user information. They are lure people into giving them more and more, right? So basically, for us, we want to send a message to them, and we think the message is that they will become soon obsolete. For all the reasons we said, right? They will not be able to cope with the growing demand. They will not be able to cope with the growing regulations, right? Well, one interesting thing that we were saying was that, in a country, imagine a country like Switzerland or any European country, there is a thing called GDPR that is a law that tries to protect the citizens' data and have that data not leaving the country. So the only way to do that, right? So if you are in a Zoom call, if you are an administration of a city, of a canton, or a government administration, you will never know if your Zoom, Microsoft Teams, and so on, where that data will pass through. But so we believe that all these things together will make the centralized big tech corporation obsolete.
So basically, if you think about it, like, what is the role even of a VC in this world? Because there's like no operational cost. You can do the scaling yourself. Like, there might be, there's always a little need for capital to pay bills and stuff. But like, you just have all the opportunities yourself, deploying things from your laptop. So, what I love, one of the things I love about the peer-to-peer internet is also like that the scales are different. Like, you can totally run businesses at home where you making a couple $100 doing some service. So you don't have to run things that are necessarily like $1 million industries, even though that also will succeed, because like your operational cost is so little, right? So you can run hundreds of businesses and see what picks up, and like, so it's this much more fluent marketplace. By the way, like, when you make applications, peer-to-peer applications, because you're structuring differently, data lives in this peer-to-peer layer, kind of like what we're used to with or about in blockchains. So you can also make apps that are very easily interoperable with other apps. So you can make these like really wide marketplaces, which is super exciting for business and stuff like that. So I think that's super, super cool. And actually, one of the things we struggle with a lot is that this space is so big. So Paolo's almost daily texting me with like ideas, and there's so many, because like, once you start thinking about these things and like kind of understanding the peer-to-peer ethos and how peer-to-peer apps can be just so much more powerful than centralized apps, because they don't have to play on the same playing field, your mind starts to wander, and it gets me super excited about the future. So, just think about an application like a peer-to-peer mapping application, right? So basically, mapping today, let's face it, just means Google Maps, because that's what everybody's been pushing. But like, Google Maps comes with a ton of caveats. Like, when I look for recommendations on Google Maps, like for example here, if I was looking for a restaurant in Lugano, I get Google's recommendations, which can be good, but at the end of the day, Google's recommendations is based on what's best for Google, not what's best for me. And if I think about it, where do I actually get my good Lugano recommendations? It's from Paolo, because Paolo lives here. So it's from a local peer, right? So that's how we interact as humans, and that's also how we used to do things before centralization, this massive centralization we're having today. We ask locals, we buy local guides, right? Peer-to-peer technology and peer-to-peer mapping allows us to like bring that kind of stuff back, get those local recommendations, because local people can just make peer-to-peer data sets that we can integrate into peer-to-peer mapping. I can come here, I can just sync the local map for this. I can have the map be maintained by locals, so they actually know how things are, not by people sitting in Silicon Valley, like trying to dictate how things should be. And all of that I can do in like an open fashion, right? And I can sync just the data that's interesting for me. Maybe I'm just very interested in restaurants. Maybe I'm very interested in like hiking spots. Maybe I'm so interested in it that I want to spend $5, sending a Bitcoin transaction through the network to buy that data set. So I think that's like just incredibly, incredibly exciting. Things like social networks, very, very, very relevant these days. Like, why is there only one, maybe two big social networks? Why is there not 1,000? Why is there not 1,000,000? Each catering to different niches in the world, each respecting our local cultures, how we communicate differently. Like, instead of being policed from the top, which is very frustrating to me as a European, because I feel like my values are always being undermined because I have to fit into a specific mindset by the people who make these big networks, while still all being interoperable, because that's what we can do with peer-to-peer technology. We can have things, we have many networks, but still have them be interoperable. So I think that's super, super exciting. That's one of those things I'm very, very excited about. And I'm sure Paolo has some great ideas also. I know he has.
So one of the most interesting ones to me that is extremely relevant in, nowadays is VPNs. So VPNs are those, say, tools that allow people to connect through a secure connection and through, let's say, an exit node somewhere, data center or somewhere that allow them to exit with another IP address. Because we know that in certain locations of the world, right? Again, we are in Europe here, but it's really important always to remind yourself that not every single nation has the same rules. Some are more oppressive. So with current VPNs, we live in a situation where VPN providers are targeted in their IP addresses that are always blacklisted by more oppressive governments, because these governments don't want their citizens to figure out what's happening in reality, or they don't want to have their citizens to get information from the outside. But with the Holepunch as a technology, we can build a VPN that uses your peers' home broadband to navigate and to exit, right? So, and the beauty of it is that since home broadbands don't have fixed IP addresses, means that it's almost impossible to target them. And in this way, you create a situation where people can access information more freely. But also, speaking about free information, I think that one of the things that always excited me since I was a kid was search engines. So building a search engine, of course you are familiar with Google and the probably Bing, and there is a sad story about search engines, right? So they should be the holy grail of access to information and to knowledge. But actually, they transformed, Google, I think, even removed the "don't be evil" line from their ethos, right? Yeah. So that tells a lot. But I followed Google from the '98. And to me, who had control over search engines had control over the human knowledge, right? With search engines, you can feed artificial intelligence, you can feed learning networks, and so on. But so do we really want to leave that control to one or two companies, right? So of course, it's an obvious thing to say, right? So we have heard this complaint many times. But the point is that now the technology, right, is growing fast and is much more capable than what we think, or more capable that we are more than what we are led to think. So, the biggest lie, again, is Mathias talked a lot about it, is, you have to talk to your family and you have to pass through someone else's server. We are going to Mars, and yet we are taught to think that all our connections has to pass through someone else's server to reach our family, friends, co-workers, and so on. That's a lie, right? So we are proving this with Keynote. Yeah. And we can prove that with search engines, right? So imagine a world where data is distributed, information is more distributed, and then you gather part of this information in form of indexes or such, and then you can apply your own weights, your own filters to that information. And you can use also the weights and filters of your peers. So your peers are the person that you talk to more, right? So your colleagues, family members, people playing with you, and so on. So that's how it should be. You don't need an algorithm with business logic when it comes. That is a real business logic that weights things that make the company that is issuing that algorithm more profitable. So if you buy a fridge, is not the fridge that is perfect for you, is the fridge that is, is paying more for advertisement, right? So things are, I think that things should be changing pretty soon, because access to knowledge is power, and power should be not concentrated in the hands of few.
100%.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Mark.